Now, I talk a lot about the joys of creating fantasy maps on this channel, and it's awesome exploring a dungeon map that you've created. But if you've played a tabletop role-playing game for any amount of time, you'll know that you always end up on some boat headed into dangerous waters. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to draw a really simple, easy to draw, but awesome looking ship map. So first things first, you're going to need a few things to draw this map with. I recommend getting some grid paper. Depending on what size map you want to draw will depend on the size of your grid. I'm going to be using a 1/4-inch grid, and I like to use the grid paper that has the light blue lines. That way if I take it into the computer, it's really easy to get rid of the grid if I want to. You're also going to need a pencil to sketch out and plan your map, and an eraser to erase the pencils later on. I like to use white vinyl erasers. You'll need a pen to ink your map. I really like using these micron pens because they have a nice uniform line and they come in a bunch of different sizes, which is a really nice way to differentiate the different parts of your map. And you'll also need some sort of whiteout. I'm using a white Jelly Roll pen just in case you make any mistakes while you're inking with the pens. Now, I'll have a link down in the description to where you can pick up all of these recommended art supplies, but honestly, you don't really need anything that I've mentioned. If you have a sheet of white paper and a pen, you can make a pretty awesome looking ship map. Okay, so I'm jumping right into sketching my ship. I actually looked up what a galleon blueprint was on Google, just searching around, looking at different ship layouts and stuff. So for this map, I wanted to create a trade ship. It's actually going to be a shipwreck, but we'll talk more about that later in the video. For now, let's talk about the sketching that's going on. So I'm using the grid paper to keep nice straight lines and keep everything symmetrical. The grid paper makes everything just much easier. You don't have to use a ruler and do measurements or anything like that. The main thing I'm doing is figuring out the layout of this ship. I'm trying to keep in mind the scenario of what this shipwreck encounter is actually going to be. So the obvious layout things like where the masts are and the stairs going from level to level, where all the doors and walls are. But then I'm adding in a few scenario type things like the crack in the hull and this fallen sail that's kind of leaning up against the side of the ship. You know, those are going to be ways for the players and the enemies to get aboard the ship. But at the same time, I'm not adding too many details. You know, I'm leaving out stuff like what's inside the captain's quarters. There's no beds or furniture or anything like that because I want the DM to describe what's going on in each of the different parts of the ship. Now, one cool thing about this blueprint style of map is that you can do different levels of the ship. So for this ship, there's an upper level, lower level, and then a hold at the very bottom. And the ship kind of gets smaller as it goes down, so it's more not aerodynamic, water dynamic. I don't know what the right word for that is, but ship shaped. And the really fun thing about this map is that the bottom level, the hold of the ship is flooded. So there's probably a good reason to go down there, but it's going to be creepy when you do. Okay, now that I have all of my levels of the ship planned out, it's time to jump into inking. So I'm using 3 different sizes of these micron pens. I have a size 10, a size 5, and a size 3 for the tiny little details. I like to start with the biggest, fattest pen and use that for the main outlines of the map. In this case, the hull of the ship. And using a thicker line really helps differentiate the spaces. So anytime there's a wall or the edge of the ship, use that thick line and it'll really help show that that's a solid, impassable space. Now I'm sort of switching back and forth between the size 10 and the size 5, the medium size pen. I'm adding details here and there, but I'm not getting too detailed. I'm going to save that for the size 3 pen that I'll use at the end of the drawing. Now, the great thing about creating a ship map is that it's easy to plan. We all kind of know what ships look like and have an idea of the layout of ships or can imagine a layout really easily. And in technical terms, it's not that hard to draw. It's mostly just simple lines. I guess the most complicated things are maybe the masts, and if you wanted to get crazy with like some of the rigging and stuff. But hopefully you can see how easy it is to make it simple by watching how I'm drawing it here. Now I do have this more complicated toppled mast that is kind of half underwater. And to draw the underwater stuff, it's actually easier than it seems. You just make the lines a little thinner and make them a little wavy. You know, don't try to draw super straight lines, and then break them up every once in a while. And this will make it look like the water is obscuring what's underneath. Now I'm drawing this shipwreck map for Terran, Indestructible on YouTube. He's making a pulp fantasy game called Vagabond, and we'll be using this map as like a horde style encounter. Somehow the players get stranded on this shipwreck and are gonna have to fight to survive. You know, last long enough to make it out alive. Now I imagine he'll make a video or probably do a stream about writing this scenario, so definitely go follow Terran. Vagabond looks like a super cool game, and he's put a ton of work into it already, so I'm excited to see where all this goes. So I'm drawing this shipwreck dungeon, but that doesn't mean you have to draw a wrecked ship. Maybe your players are sailing from one continent to another to continue their adventure, and you want a fun map to throw down on the table for some sort of encounter at sea. Or maybe the ship even belongs to the players, and whenever they jump on and travel somewhere, you get to pull out this map that you've drawn. You know, anytime one of your hand-drawn maps can be used on the table multiple times, it's definitely a big win. Okay, as I'm inking this map, I've decided there's not enough differentiation between the size 10 and the size 5 lines. I really want the hull and the inside walls to be thick, so I'm filling in these borders and making really solid black lines so it's extra clear of how this ship is divided up. Now I'm moving on to the smallest size pin, the 03, and I thought that I was going to add deck boards to this entire map, but I'm thinking it's too much, it's too hard to look at, and it's gonna make the other details like the masts and the stairs kind of disappear just because there's so much detail. So I'm not adding the decking boards, but I will add a few texture details here and there, and I'm gonna make a few corrections with the white gel pen. I didn't like how the cargo grate holes were looking, so filled that all in black and using the white gel pen just to make that look simpler. And I think this is a great example of something that looks really cool, adds a lot of interest to the ship and the scenario, like, is this a way in and out for the players? And really it's just two squares with a bigger tic-tac-toe grid on top. Everybody can draw that. So hopefully you can see how fun and easy it is to draw a ship map, and I hope this video has inspired you to give it a try yourself. Definitely check out Indestructible on YouTube and his game Vagabond. It's going to be super cool. If you'd like to support this channel, I have a Patreon where I make monthly adventures that are filled with maps and guidebooks that teach you how to draw maps. I also have an online shop filled with adventures and guidebooks that I've made. Let me know what you think of this ship map down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!